Hey there everyone, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Let's continue building the 650 scale Enterprise Ds. Welcome back to another update on the 650 scale Enterprise D projects. I got a little bit of work done between updates. I have every single last window, almost, filled in on the first of the two kits, and we're well on the way to getting windows filled in on the second kit. Now, which windows do I not have filled in? I do not have a bridge dome, and I do not have conference lounge windows. We're going to be looking at those, doing those a little bit differently than all the other windows. The other windows I don't yet have filled in are the dormitory windows on the bottom saucer. We're going to figure that out. I do have those nasty gaps on the first round saucer filled, puttied. They're looking good. So we're going to figure out what we're going to put behind there. We need to get working on some masks, getting some window masks ready to go, because we are moving along. So let's get right at it. But before we get started, why not take a moment and click the subscribe button? And while you're here, click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. If you are thinking about buying a Tesla, you can save $1,000 by ordering using my referral code, link in the description below. So starting to look at some of the parts, that work has been done. All of these windows on the top saucer are done, except for the conference lounge and the dome on the bridge. Now, I'm gonna have to find some sort of clear, optically clear material I can put into the conference room that's gonna be flexible enough to adhere properly on the curve, both the curve this way and the curve around. And then I'm looking at possibly using a googly eye clear part for the bridge dome so that you can see in there enough to see the bridge inside. I've also filled in these grills that are not supposed to be open. Now, I wasn't able to get the piece of styrene all the way in, so there's a little bit of gap. I'll just fill that in with a little bit of resin of some sort just to make sure that that is flat, and you won't be able to tell the difference once this is painted. So this part is ready to go to have the masking put on. And here I've got a whole pile of window masks for all of these windows. So all of these windows are essentially the same size. So I have about 2,000 windows here because there's a whole pile on this and a whole pile on the other saucer part. Plus I want to make sure I have some spares. And then you may not be able to tell, but this little strip of vinyl, hopefully the light shining off it a bit here, will show you that these are the masks for the Arboretum windows back here. I also have masks ready to go for these windows. I still have to create masks for, let's see here, there are a few larger windows up here that I need to create some masks for. And I've got these larger windows up here that we need masks for as well. So I'm going to start working on masking this part of the kit. Now, when it comes to the lower saucer, I do not have any masks prepared for this part. Now, the only, there's going to be far fewer masks needed for this. We've got these windows all around here that I'll measure up and get masked for. Now, all these dormer windows, many of them are different sizes. So there are a variety of different sizes of the slot windows, and then there are these square windows. Now, I'm thinking that I may simply put translucent material behind here. That's going to be a lot easier than trying to get the solar res, and it'll look a little cleaner, especially on these larger windows. Now, these windows, I'm gonna have to check the reference, but I'm pretty sure that these are not windows, that these are the saucer section's deflector dish, and they are to be a slightly bit blue, so we will deal with that as well. Now, I've taken care of the putty work on all these dormer windows. They're looking pretty good. If I flip it back over, you can see that those have a fair bit of putty in them because they had quite the gap in there. That's been taken care of. So those need to be filled in and prepared. And then once I have those done, we'll be able to work on masking this. Now, on both the top saucer and the bottom saucer, there are edge windows on the saucer. These are not molded in. And if I grab the top saucer, you can see the sensor band is here, and these windows are actually, both top and bottom are probably going to be dealt with on the top saucer part. So we're going to use a technique with masking to simulate those windows. Now, I'm pretty sure that those windows were simply simulated on the 6-foot model, And I'm not sure what they did for the 4-foot model, but we are going to simulate those windows. So essentially we're going to paint the rim black, we're going to mask those off, and then kind of build up the window frames with the primer. So we've got quite a bit of work ahead of ourselves, so I'm going to get working on doing that. So all the windows apart from the observation deck and the dome on the bridge are masked, which means we are ready to move on to the next stage, which means I am going to start working on dealing with the edge windows, because we want to reproduce the look of the edge window similar to the way it was done on the studio model. So I'm going to go in and design up some masks that'll go along and represent those windows, and then before I put the masks on, we're going to put some black paint around the edge, which will create the black dark window look for those simulated windows. Remember, they were simulated on the 6-foot model, they were not molded in. So here's how it's looking with the test run masks on the front of the saucer there. I'll back out just to give you a bit of an idea of size, and let's take a look at a photo of this next to the photo of the studio model so you can get a good idea of how they sort of match up. Some adjustments will need to be made in the placement, but I think I've got the sizing pretty much down. I'm preparing the saucer to get the black rim painted on this thing, so we'll just back up here a little bit and you can see I've masked off the phaser array so that we don't get any overspray on the black paint onto the clear section for the phaser array. I do need to remove these masks before I paint, since we want the black under where these masks go. Now you might be asking, how am I going to actually see to put these masks on when I've got the edge painted black? Well, I won't if I'm using these, so I've ordered white vinyl and I'm going to print the masks out on the white vinyl. That way I'll be able to really tell where I'm placing those masks down. Black coat around the edge, which is a black primer coat, has been applied, and here I've removed one of the windows with a little bit of a light source underneath, so you see how nice and clean those turn out when you pull the masks off. I'll replace that here in a moment. I've had to go around and just make sure that all the masks stayed in place. Sometimes the masks come off with the adhesion promoter, but I've gone through and I'm continuing to go through just making sure those are touched up. My white vinyl arrives tomorrow, so I will cut those edge window masks and start applying them tomorrow once that vinyl arrives. Here we go. The rim window masking is now fully installed onto the saucer rim, both top and on the bottom. Something that's really interesting as I'm going through the studio model photos is that these windows are not symmetrical side to side, so there is a little bit of a difference. I've also had to take a little bit of creative license on the sides of the saucer because they don't quite, you can't quite fit all the windows that are on the studio model on this particular model kit. And that happens from time to time when you're sizing things and trying to reproduce the studio model in model kit form. But there's the other side, and there's your 10 forward and whatever is above it, 9 forward maybe, who knows. But these are on. Now I do need to go through and check all of these masks because some of them did lift a little bit with the adhesion promoter. So I'm going to go through and replace any of these that don't quite look right. Also, there's a couple of spots where there might still be a little bit of raised resin. I'm going to check all those. Some of it might just be staining, which will be covered by the gray primer. But if there's anything that is raised, I'll try to remove that before I put the gray primer down. But my next steps are to replace masks like this one here that are a little bit proud, that need to be replaced, and checking all of those imperfections. And then I will get the gray coat of primer down on this part. Normally I'd like to prime the kit fully assembled, but given that it's so huge, I think we're going to put at least a primer coat, one primer coat down before doing assembly. Top Saucer has its first very light coat of gray primer, enough to show me where a lot of the issues are that need to be dealt with. Also gave me a chance to test pull these masks on the rim of the saucer. I've just pulled one small section to make sure that it's looking the way that I want it to, and it looks pretty much perfect. I'm going to be going through and replacing a bunch of masks just like I did here and over here. They will have to be replaced periodically throughout this whole process, but this is looking pretty good. Again, don't pay too much attention to the paint job. It's just a very light coat to make sure that everything is looking good and to point out all the areas that need some special attention. There are any number of problems and challenges that come up when you're dealing with a kit like this, and we are faced with solving one of those problems right now. How do you solve a problem like conference lounge windows? Or observation lounge, whatever you want to call it, but the room directly behind the bridge where they would meet and discuss what was going on in any particular episode. So we have some highly detailed and gorgeously painted parts that are going to be going in those areas, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you those parts in the next update. But we need windows for viewing the item that is going in there, the part that's going in there. So we need an optically clear way of filling those conference room windows. And I've gone through all kinds of different options, and we have come up with some challenges here. So first off, you can't just fill those windows behind the bridge with solar res because it's not optically clear when you do that. If you fill them like you do any of the other windows, no matter how glossy you get that surface, it is not optically clear. So I've looked at many different other options. So I put silicone in from the outside to take up the space of most of the window ledge so that I could put a very thin coating of solar res inside, hoping that that would make it optically clear if it was thin enough. And I went through that process, and well, we were just smacked in the face by the laws of liquid dynamics, the concave meniscus, where the any sort of liquid clings to the side of a container. That causes big problems because that curves the surface and causes optical distortion. I mean, if you've got glasses, you know that your glasses are curved, and the way that those are curved dictates how you're able to see, how it adjusts the light coming through so that you can see properly. The same thing happens here. So when that happens, it distorts the image coming through that clear material. It can be water clear, but if it's got any sort of disturbance on the flatness of that surface, you are not going to be able to see what's inside. I scoured around looking for a plastic I could cut and put inside. I could not find anything that was perfectly designed to go in there. Of course, I mean, it is a very custom piece, and trying to heat a piece of flat plastic to mold in there, well, that just distorts the plastic and makes it optically unclear. So I was racking my brain. I was chatting with a few people. I was bantering back and forth with Hagen Miller about some of these things and what we could do. That's when we came up with the silicone idea, and I came up finally with an idea. And it's gone through a couple iterations, and I think we've managed to get the most optically clear, perfectly conformed, clear window piece for that section. I don't think that it's going to be possible to get anything more optically clear there than what I've managed. So I'm going to show you what I did, and I think that this might be an option for many different applications on modeling, at many different genres of modeling, but certainly when it comes to Starship windows, I think that this is going to be something that's going to be helpful for many people. So please make sure that you continue watching as I show you what I did. So before I show you how I did it, I want to show you what I did. See how nice and clear those windows look, and there is material in there. In fact, I've got one of my keychains down in there, and you can actually read the text of my YouTube channel address on the leaf. Now, there will be lighting in the conference room, so you will be able to see everything nice and clear. This is just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to flip this over and show you what the part looks like from the inside. So here's a look at the inside of that part, and by looking at it, you might just think that it's a clear piece of plastic that I somehow molded to fit into that area perfectly, but it is not. In fact, that is solar res. So, how do you solve a problem like conference room windows with complex compound curves? So I'm going to attempt to show you the process for making the observation lounge windows in real time here. You can see there's no windows in this saucer top. This is the second of the two. It's the one that has not been primed yet. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to take 2 fresh microscope slides here. There we go. And you can get microscope slides on Amazon. And they might be a little hard to see, but if I just shine them the right way, you can see that they're there. Then we're going to take our solar res, which I've got in this bottle, and we are going to lay it down onto one of these slides. There we go, just like that. You really only need the width of the glass that you want to make. We're going to make sure that we don't have any bubbles in it. There we go. I did have a couple bubbles to pop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the second slide and place it on top of the first one. And we're going to sandwich it down there. Then we're going to take our UV light. We're just going to shoot it just for a very brief time. We want it to solidify, but we still want it to be malleable. Now, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this off camera just because it's a little fiddly, is I'm going to separate this out. And it can be a little tricky. You might need to get something in to pry the 2 slides apart. And if you're unlucky, you may break the slides. But I've got a pack of 72 here, and I'm sure that I'll have enough to get this. So let me take this apart and I will bring you back. All right, I've removed this very clear, very thin piece of solar res from those slides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and press it into place very gently, very carefully. And I'm just going to allow it to conform to the shape of the windows. Pressing it in. Gently. Allowing it to form to the shape. There we go. Now, it's mostly there, but we can make it conform a little bit better. But what we're going to do is we're going to tack the top of this in place with a little bit more solar res. And if we don't like how it's placed in there, we can easily remove it because that's not going to permanently fix it. Now I'm going to take something that's a blunt object that's a little bit soft. In this case, I'm using the handle of these small needle nose pliers. And I'm going to push in just to help it conform more closely to the window frames inside. because you can only get it so close to those window frames with your finger, and this is not going to mark the solar res piece that's in there. So just working it gently, conforming it to the part. Okay. Now, holding it in place, I'm going to just give a dot of solar res on each side. Just enough to tack it into place so it no longer moves. I don't want this on my finger for too long. I'll remove my finger as soon as possible. And we'll just let this hit that piece a little bit longer, just to finalize the cure on that. And that's it. We have very nice, clean, and pretty much optically clear windows. I'll drop the camera down and take a quick look inside so you can see how this turned out. And here's a quick look at the windows. You can see through the top is the pattern of the light board underneath. You can see through the bridge dome, which has nothing in it yet. And the pattern looks exactly the same through the conference room windows that do have that solar res glass piece in there. That is about as optically clear, I think, as you can possibly get on this type of part. And that's going to be it for this update on the 650 scale Enterprise D projects. I am really, really excited that regardless of how many false starts there were, how difficult the process was to get there, that I was able to get really nice looking optically clear windows in those conference rooms. That was a serious challenge that we were able to get overcome in this update. And I am so excited to get my hands on the insert parts that are going in there for the conference room and the bridge. I was able to have Donnie Daughtry over at Don's modeling desk do the paint work on these. Donnie is a guy that I met at Wonderfest. He's part of the Hobby Time Modelers group, who I participated in their live stream there at Wonderfest, and he offered to paint them. He paints lots of little teeny tiny things, and they look really good. I've seen pictures of the bridge in the conference room. I can't wait to see them in person. So make sure that you go and check out Donnie's channel. The link will be in the description below. But that's going to be it for today. If you've enjoyed this update, please make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do. But for now, my name is Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Have a great day, everyone.